Step into the light where the wild ones roam, where the heart speaks loud, calling this place home. We break the rules, we paint the sky, ridiculously you, we were born to fly. Ooh, it's ridiculously you.
Hey everyone, I am Julie May. I'm your host of the Ridiculously You podcast. So welcome in today. Today we've got an awesome guest. He is living proof that rock bottom doesn't have to be the end of your story. It can be the start of your most powerful chapter. This is Paul Casey. He's a leadership coach, a trainer, a keynote speaker, an entrepreneur who has spent the last 28 years equipping leaders and teams to grow forward. But he is just an amazing human through that. He has his growing forward way to help you. And this is one thing that he helps people with, is helping people get crystal clear with their life, with their North Star, build businesses, boundaries, and habits that align with it. So if you're ready to get in and reclaim your fire and find that North Star for you, you're going to really enjoy Paul Casey. So Paul, tell us a little bit more about you and your story.
Yeah, it's so great to be here, Julie. Thanks for the invite. I am married in a blended family. So married for 16 years this round. I've got 2 adult children named after state capitals. Yeah, Austin and Cheyenne. So 27 and 23 now. So empty nesters. We've got 2 puppies, a Lhasa Apso named Gizmo and a Shih Tzu named Nugget. So, Lhasa and, well, there you go. And I run a business, Growing Forward Services, like you said. I love living my purpose, which is coaching and equipping to spark breakthrough success in people. So do that through one-to-one coaching, through team coaching, through training, through facilitating retreats. Anything that helps people grow is what I love to do. And I'm on my 10-year anniversary.
10-year anniversary. Yay. That's so cool. So who were you in the before lands and before coaching, before all that? Tell us about your life in the before land.
Before land, I grew up in Chicago, a suburb of Chicago, and then went to school to be a teacher. Both of my parents are teachers. So I became a teacher. I knew all the bad stuff about being a teacher, and I still wanted to be one. So I knew it was a calling, like to be an educator. So I went to school, got a degree in elementary education, became a 5th grade teacher. Love that age. They're just creative enough to understand adult humor, but their attitude hasn't quite shifted into junior high yet.
Oh, no, same. I come from an education background, and 5th grade was my favorite.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was so fun.
Yes. After a couple of years, my principal saw something in me that I didn't see in myself, which was leadership. And he said, "Do you want to be my vice principal next year?" It was a private school, so there wasn't as many of the regulations. And I said, "Wow, if you think I can do it." He said, "Well, I can't pay you for the full time, so be PE teacher half the day, and then you can be the vice principal half the day." And I was like, "Okay, I'll give it a try." So I came in my suit and I changed into my gym clothes halfway through the day and did that for a couple of years. Moved up to the beloved state of Washington, where I am now, and took an elementary principal job in a private school here. Did that for 6 years, hit a leadership lid, which means I started being in jobs where I was restricted from just being all I could be, like being the growth agent that I wanted to be. And I get a restless feeling when that happens. And I was just like, this was the first time I sent resumes and I resigned before I even knew where I was going, which is a little suicidal, but I did anyways. And I took a school in Seattle for a couple of years, was also on a church staff for a while there. That was the first time doing that. Then moved back to Tri-Cities and became like a family pastor at a church, like a parenting educator. And all that stress of being a principal rolled off. So that was really cool. And then along the way, during that move, my wife said, like, "I don't want to be married anymore." And I was like, whoa, wait, what? And that's when I hit my bottom moment, like just getting punched in the face and not realizing like what was going on around me. So I was a like a family pastor at the biggest church in town, and my wife was saying like, we're done. So it was a
Oh,
very
wow.
humiliating experience for me. Just sort of ripped me apart, and I had a choice to make. My kids were only 6 and 3 at the
Mhm.
time, and I had a big decision to make, like stay down or reinvent, right? And like come back to life. So I did like 13 things. There's no magic in the 13, but to like come back to life. So then I got another job at a church, like an executive pastor role, which is like being a principal at a church. And then I started my own business. I became a certified life coach, which I've morphed into being a leadership coach. I was already a trainer speaking at conventions for teachers, giving them tons of ideas because I love that. And then I thought if I added team building on there, maybe I can get a three-legged stool to start a business and give it a try. So I took the courageous leap, started my own business, and like I said, 10 years. There we go.
There you go. Did you have some carryover time where you were still working and building the business? What was like
Yeah,
that? Yeah. What was that? And now I'm going to do this full-time gig for you because I think that's the leap, man. It's one thing when you're like, yeah, but I have the steady job and it's like my side gig. But like when you quit the job and this is like your full-time gig, that can be quite the leap for people.
absolutely. Yeah. So, like I said, I was speaking at these teacher conventions and I was like, making a few $100s. And I thought, what if I put this out to the business community and shifted my talks and turned them into leadership talks? And then like McDonald's locally hired me now. So I love having that on my resume, right?
Yeah. I did training
So
for McDonald's. Oh, that looks good.
yeah, the golden arches really look good on a resume. Yeah. And so I'm like, wow, I could do this for businesses, and crew leaders. And so I made a few thousand the first year. I was also, getting some reps in with coaching. I was charging like $35 an hour, which is
Oh,
nothing,
wild.
right? And people were just like, I want to talk, and I realized like this isn't my target audience, people that just want to talk. That was a
Yeah.
little bit more therapy than coaching. And it was like, no, I want to take people that are here and bring them up to here, like the next level. And so raised my rates, during those tested out years, made a few more thousand the next year. And I'm like, man, what's my number? Like, what am I going to use to launch? And I don't know why I picked the number, but like I have 17,000 in the bank. I'm going to launch. I don't know why I picked that number. And once I got that in my business account, I resigned from the day job. They gave me a 6 month like runway off, which was really helpful to go to part time first and then to leave. And
Mm.
then I remember that, December 31st, packing my boxes up and like, here we go, entrepreneurship.
So here we go, entrepreneurship. And how do you think of that journey versus like teaching or anything else you've done?
Well, I'm still an educator at heart, right? Now I'm just
Yeah.
educating adults and people that really want to like pay money to grow forward, which is my brand, right? I don't want someone who's sent to a training. I don't want someone who thinks they know it all already. So I have a target audience that like, yeah, let's do this. Let's grow forward. But I'm still an educator at heart, giving ideas, but then pulling them out. I added the coaching piece, which is a lot less tell and a lot more ask and
Hmm.
invite and collaborate with and come alongside. So that skill has gone way up for me, where a lot of the tell skills have come down a bit. But it's a nice blend because I don't know if you ask me like which one do you like better, I'd be like, I can't tell you. I
Yeah.
love coaching and training the same.
Yeah, I totally get that. Because, like I said, coming from an education background myself, that was the last jobs I had was like I taught fifth grade was my favorite, and then the last one I taught, I was also at a private school. I was teaching first and second grade. Those guys are super super cute, but you can't talk to them at the same level as a fifth grader, and
Yep.
and so I'm like, no, and I was at a private school. So much of my journey is that. And before that, I was doing leadership stuff with youth. And so I'm like, no, I'm still into leadership. I'm still into education. I'm still into helping people be their best selves, but it looks a little different from this angle. Here's a question I have for you, because you're in coaching. You talk to people all the time who are striving to be better, striving to do that next thing. What do you think, like, the biggest piece of advice you have for people when you're in that telling space and you need to tell somebody like one thing that helps them get out of their way? What do you think that one thing is most commonly?
I think it's really important. You mentioned that word true north in your introduction. You have to have a personal vision. Folks that are stuck like right here and they can't move forward have such a myopic vision of like, this is my problems. This is, I'm stuck here. I don't see any future out there. And so I just stay here for another year, right? Or another 2 years or 5 years. But as soon as you get that personal vision that you want of you humming on all cylinders, and you get more self-aware of like, these are really my strengths. Like, I'm not bragging, I'm good at these things, right? People
Yeah.
would pay money for this, right? And I get requested for this and they ask for my advice on this. Then you start to come to life, and then it's like, how can I shape that into maybe something that makes money, or how can I do this as a volunteer? And then people tend to come to life when they've got that vision of them humming on all cylinders.
How do you get people to that vision state? Like, if somebody's plugging along and they're just like, I just know I don't love what I'm doing. I don't like my life. Here's problem, 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 problem. How do you get them from that state? Like, what's your personal method? Get them from that state into, I have a vision for who I want to be, what I want it to look like, the life I want to live, and get from victimhood to visionary state. There's a bit of a jump there.
There is, and I have a ton of strategies. I'll just share a couple of them. First of all, it would be a lot of assessment tools. I don't think I've met an assessment tool I don't like. I probably have 25 of them that I can just pull right out, and put in front of somebody right now, because I want them to, you talk about your ridiculous and
Mhm.
everyone is so amazing, and they just need to see it on paper sometimes. I know it's weird, but it's like when I find out what my personality best is, what my strengths best is, what my working genius is, what my fascination factor is. There's so many of them out there that they start going like, okay, I can probably craft my own little mission statement out of this. Another tool is showing them like, well, again, showing them what a bright future could look like in that, but also like, what's the consequences of staying here? To your
Mm.
point, like to stay here stuck as a victim, like what's the payoff for that? Now, there still is an emotional payoff for staying stuck. So
Oh,
we try
there
to
is. Yeah.
ferret that out, right? But it's usually not a great one. There's usually way better future out there for people, but trying to get them like feel that pain for a bit. Like, is that a place where you want to spend any more time? Right? And then what could be some alternative options for that? So those are just a couple of strategies to move someone from here to there.
Okay, so I like to look at things on more of like a big scale, like a countrywide scale or a global scale. And one of the things that I'm noticing in the United States right now, this is what I see. I see this strange dichotomy where we're actually at the point where we've had the fewest wars, the fewest murders, like, it's actually safer to live in America right now than it has been historically. And yet people's opinion or their fear is at an all-time high. They have the least amount of hope. They have kind of this assumption that everything's going to go bad in our younger generations. How do you feel like the work you do, and just like this reaching the one person, how do you think that starts to affect bigger issues like this?
I think we have to help folks, you and I, and all people helpers that are listening here today, focus on what they can control and stop focusing on what they can't control. Because focusing on what you can't control, I know it's a duh, but it's an anxiety builder,
Mm-hmm.
right? And a lot of that's coming at us like never before, to your point, through social media and the news, the full, the 24-hour news cycle, and people sharing bad stuff that's going on in the world. And after a while, you just start getting this latent anxiety that builds up. And then it's almost like it puts you in quicksand, like, oh, everything is so awful. Like, and I don't think I can do anything about it. And I don't think I can do anything about me. And then like I said, it's like quicksand. You just start sinking into it. So what I'm really trying to help people with is like, okay, let's get your eyes off that. Let's get your eyes on what you can control. And there's power there. You feel empowered when you're like, I can take an action today. I can make another sales call. You're an entrepreneur. I can love my family with actual acts of kindness, right? I can volunteer at a nonprofit or a cause that I love, and I can move the needle if I focus on those things, and it squishes out all that stuff that you can't control. It's taking up brain space.
It does it takes up a lot of brain space for a lot of people, actually. And I really think the more people that we have that have hope, that have vision, that have like that inner light inside them. When I talk to you, Paul, I'm like, oh my gosh, this is a guy who you just brighten up a space. Like the more people we have like that, I think it just gives other people permission to have hope. It's almost like the popular thing right now to be like all doom and gloom and the sad and here's all the problems. And it's not that I want to ignore the problems. I want to I'm very knowledgeable about what's going on and stuff, but it is, what can I do about it? What can you do about it? Who am I in this space? And do I want to let the message, regardless of where it came from, dictate how I decide to be and live? And the more we can have people like us out there sharing that kind of message, I think it does start to have a ripple effect. And I think, we can make enough positive changes to give people hope. Give people hope. That's the idea, right?
Yes, that's one of my core values is hope, right? I think Napoleon said leaders are dealers in hope. Like we're not drug dealers, we're hope dealers. Right?
I'm glad you brought up that word principles, because I was going to ask you this, because this is what I believe is once you find like your core true principles, then you can start building a life on that. So tell us a little bit more about your kind of core principles and maybe a little bit about how you came to those.
Yes. So the exercise is, so I went through a program called Leadership Tri-Cities. It's a cohort that from different industries come together. They form a 25-person cohort and they move through an experience for a year. And in the initial retreat, which I now get to lead, which is fun, we do a values exercise. And you can get these off the internet. You get cards, you can get a sheet of them, and you start going like, what's really important to me? And you circle all those, or you pull those cards out, put them in pile number 1. And then you're like, okay, these are sort of meh. They're good words, but they don't resonate with me quite as much. And so then you take those cards and you go like, all right, now out of these, I got to get it down to my top 10. And then I got to get it down to my top 5. So I remember doing that exercise. And then the leader said, is there enough evidence to convict you of those 5 values? And I love that phrase. Is there enough evidence to convict you? By your behavior and your words, would other people say like, yeah, that's Paul for sure. I mean, he's always talking about hope, or he's always talking about his faith or whatever. And so it was like, okay, there's actual evidence. And now am I living my life that way? And then I want to structure my day, my week, my life around those core values. So some of them that have risen to the top when I've done it many different times, right? Growth, of course, is way up at the top. And I named my business Growing Forward, because it's all about that for me. I'm reading 40 books a year. I'm listening to podcasts. I'm reading magazines of the industry. And I just love to learn so that I can output it to others, right? So that one's an easy one for me. Spirituality, faith, always been a part of me since I was a little kid. And that's sort of my true north. Words like hope and love, I think are transcendent, right? They stay above the muck of circumstances in our life, and they keep me buoyant so that when I get an email like I got this morning, like you were not selected to be the keynote speaker for that, I'm like, wah, wah,
Wah, wah.
but I have hope. And then you know what? An hour later, I got chosen to be a coach for an organization. Like you're going to be our guy. That you're gonna get to coach all of our people. So that hope of like there's something around the corner that's going to be pretty cool has really risen up in me over the last several years.
Here's a question I have for you. Are there things that you felt were part of your personality or part of your being in the past that you have transitioned out of as you've kind of moved more into like leadership and stuff? You think about like how you were with your last marriage, with your kids, with your jobs, with your things. How do you feel like you've transformed? What do you think are qualities you had back then that maybe you don't have as much with you anymore?
Wow, great question. I was a scary flaming introvert growing up. Like
Yeah.
I was in a controlled environment, like a greenhouse, and I didn't have a voice. I didn't have a lot of choices to make, and so I just became a good listener, which is a good thing, right? And I became more hyper aware of my surroundings, and there's some good things that I try to pull from that. But boy, since in the last 10, 15 years, I have become a little bit more extroverted. When I take the introvert extrovert deal, I am now 60-40 extrovert, which is just
Wow.
fascinating. Yeah, and it really came out in COVID, which is like when we were all like by ourselves, there was
Mm-hmm.
like an inner hunger in me to be with people. Now I was like this over video, but it wasn't the same. Like I longed to be with people and to get networking again in my community and, just building better relationships. So that has gone from scary shy to almost like I'm not life of the party, but a lot more engaging with people, a lot more confidence in sharing ideas that I believe are core principles in life, where I don't hold back like I used to.
Mm. Which one do you feel like is the truest version of you? Are there both parts that are true for you, or do you feel like part of it was a mask? Like, what's your belief on that?
Whew. Yeah, because in a way, I feel like this was always a part of me and it's been uncovered, right? It's
Mm.
been like an archaeological dig where you just, you go down and through experiences and new people in your life and being part of the mastermind group that you and I are a part of. I don't know, just all those experiences start uncovering like, oh, there's the real Paul in there,
Mm.
right? That's true, Paul. He's down there. He's just been sort of pushed down for so long in life, and he's held himself back by just being too cautious or shy, that has never been allowed to blossom. So I guess that's truly my ridiculously you self wanting to
Love
come
that.
out.
How does that showcase differently within like just like your personal social circles now, your family, your close friends? I mean, we know you're out there doing like speaking and leadership stuff. How does it reveal itself more in your actual personal life?
Yeah. So I have always been an initiator with my friends. Like, in a relationship with friends, usually one's the initiator and the other one's like, yeah, let's do it. Right. So
Yeah.
I've always been the initiator, but it's always been this quiet on the lowdown kind of a deal. I'm now a little bit more overt with let's get together, let's talk. I'm using this app Marco Polo. Probably many listeners know what that
Yeah,
is, where
yeah.
you
I use
record,
Marco a lot.
yeah, video calls. That's how I build my friendships with other guys through that, which is just good. Just be completely transparent through that medium. Um, my wife and I, so there's been like some struggles, right? We're going to marriage counseling because it's like, who is true Paul and who is true Laura? And like we're trying to still overcome some of those shackles that were on us when we were growing up, some of the bad home situation. And we're trying to now get past that to like really intimacy in our conversations.
Mm.
So it's a work in progress, Julie, to be honest. But I like what's happening. I mean, I like who I'm becoming. I'm on the right trajectory.
I so appreciate your realness with that because so many people come on and they're like, and everything's fantastic. And I'm like, except for that's not how it's been in my life. Like, I've had things that have been massive struggles, actually. Like, the more I have come out and been the best version of me, the truest version of me, whatever, right? There's still a consequence to that. There's still like things to navigate within
Yeah.
relationships, and there's still like things that are sticky in current relationships. You probably know I got divorced earlier this year, and a lot of that was, around the idea of like I couldn't be in a relationship where I couldn't be myself anymore. It was
Right.
like that was not going to be, and that's still difficult. All of those
Yeah.
things are still difficult, and navigating things in a new relationship now, and all of those things. It's like I think people think when they come out and they're like, and now I'm going to be the best version of me, and I've done this healing. They think like all the problems are going to like wash away, and all of a sudden everything becomes easy. And part of it does because you've made choices ahead of time. You know your principles, you know who you want to be. You are less triggered in conflict because you've done some of the healing work, and so you can kind of look at it from a more objective point of view. But it doesn't mean conflict goes away. It doesn't mean all
No,
those other things go
no,
away.
transformation is not easy, right?
No.
Whether it's the butterfly and the cocoon, they gotta push out of that cocoon, right? I think of it sort of like the X-Men character Wolverine. I think a lot of people know who Wolverine is, right?
Yeah.
He's got this power to heal, and so often he's out front taking the bullets and the radiation and all this stuff, and you can see he's in pain, right? It's like,
Yeah.
and while his body is still healing, he absorbs the hit and then he keeps going. He absorbs the hit and keeps going, right? And I think that's in these transformational journeys, we have to take those hits like you're describing and then just keep going because we know it's right. Right. It's
Yeah.
part of our core values and we have to keep going. And we know it's going to get us to a better future. But man, today it's thinking hard.
Exactly. But it kind of comes back to your word growing. I kind of use the word like enlightenment or evolution. It's like this growing towards being the best version of me, right?
Yeah.
And that's one of my core values. And so when I have these hard times, when you have these hard times, when you have those things that are uncomfortable, you go, okay, but it's leading towards this thing in the future, the tomorrow, even today, where you're like, okay, I did better today than I did yesterday. I'm figuring this out. Like that growth is so important on understanding these journeys, I think, to just become your happiest and best self. Because there are like the other part of that is like struggles are still there, but I think the joy is bigger. I think the connection is bigger. I think the payoff is so much bigger than not doing it, which I mentioned because there's probably people out there going, so why do I go through the hard thing of facing my demons if it's still going to be hard? I'm like, because the other part is bigger. Like the joy is good. And there's something absolutely beautiful about being yourself. One of the things I was talking about with a podcast guest I had on yesterday was how exhausting it is to try and filter everything when you're like, I'm this person at church and this person on stage and this person with the family. And you kind of put like a different personality or a filter in around yourself. It's exhausting.
It is.
And just being you, that's a lot more freeing.
It is. And I think, when people have asked, like, so Paul, what makes you distinctive among all the other speakers, all the other leadership people, all the coaches? And I always go like, I don't know. Right. Because, and then other people have shared, like when I've shared that I don't know moment, they're like, you're authentic. Like people connect to you easily. Like you make them feel psychologically safe. You have an easy smile and laugh. And they just feel like they can open up to you like you're their trusted advisor in the first session. And I'm like, wow, I don't know how to characterize that, right, on paper. But I think you're right. Like I'm just authentic on stage, or when I'm with you right now in a podcast, or when I'm with my family. There's not a different Paul that I have to pull out for each one of those.
Yeah. And you have a beautiful, warm energy about you. I'm big into energy, and I'm like, you do have a really good, safe energy about you. And that is distinctly different, especially in a male leadership space, because you have enough of like that leadership masculine energy, but in a really safe, nice way. And that is a difference for sure. And that's like something you can't fake, really. It's just part of who you are.
Well,
okay.
Thank you. That made my day, by the way.
Oh, I'm so glad. Are you ready for lightning round? We're going to go really fast. Okay. What's your favorite leadership book?
You're going to make me do lightning after I read all these books. Okay. One of the ones that always makes the top 5 is The Leadership Challenge by Kouzes and Posner.
Okay. Tell me one sentence of why. Why is that one better? Why is
It
that one
narrows it
so
down to
good?
these five exemplary traits: model the way, inspire a shared vision, challenge the process, enable others to act, and encourage the heart. And I think if you do those five as a leader, you're going to be a fantastic leader.
Beautiful. Okay, what do you have any cool productivity hacks? Tell me one cool productivity hack.
I block my calendar for everything. And I know that's a little bit of OCD, a little bit of a nerd because I love time management stuff, but I block out my clients, I block out reading time, I block out exercise time, I block out date nights with my wife. I literally block everything to ensure that it happens. And then
Yeah.
I obey my calendar. And if there's no one in my face, then I will actually do the thing at the time appointed.
That's a great hack. I love doing the thing at the time appointed. That's one of my biggest hacks is if I do it now, then it'll actually get done. Okay, we're gonna do some personal things. What's your favorite food?
Italian, so it's going to be pizza or lasagna.
Pizza or lasagna. Fantastic. Do you ever watch movies? What's your favorite movie?
Uh, Favorite movie. I loved the Lord of the Rings series. That was just compelling. Anything sci-fi as well would be great.
What's your idea of a fun night out? You're gonna go out this it's Labor Day weekend. You're gonna go do something fun. You're gonna go do what would be like your choice. You're gonna do anything you want. Your choice.
It's got to be some type of activity. So that could be like mini golf or actual golf, which are come up by hobbies, or going on a hike. So there'd be some type of activity, and then there would be good food. So some type of a nice restaurant where we'd have some Italian food, not off the chart, like, $100 meal, but just like really, really yummy American-ish Italian food would be fun. And to do that with my wife would be awesome.
Mm. Do you have any quick tips for connecting with adult kids? Your kids are more adulty age now.
Yeah.
This is the thing my sisters and I talk about all the time because our kids are adults now. We're like, nobody teaches you how to parent adult kids.
No, no. Wow. So I'm still figuring it out, right? I wouldn't be the expert, but first of all, I give them space, right? They've had 18 years under my leadership, parenting, right? So like, I feel like that season's over and now I've become a coach for them.
Hmm.
So I really do ask them some of the coaching questions I ask my clients without telling them I'm doing that.
Yeah.
And I think it feels even more relational, of course, for them. But just to still hear their heart and hear where they're being steered. They keep things closer to the vest, right? When they're young adults, I don't have that complete free flow conversation, I think, with them, but I long for it. But I want to give them that space so that I'm here when they want me. So I just try to encourage and keep the channels of communication open.
Mm. Okay, it's my favorite question. What do you think makes you ridiculous?
Oh, it makes me ridiculous. Yeah, I sort of feel like you were going to ask this question at some level today. Because on one hand, I beat myself up for some of those elements. Like, I can't roller skate, I can't ice skate, I don't swim, I'm not handy with cars, I'm not handy in the house. And I've actually written all those things down because that's still uniquely Paul, the things I don't do, but I don't dwell on those. But I
Yeah.
do recognize, like, that's also a part of me, that I'm like not the typical guy, right? Or the well-rounded person who can do it all, at some level. So in some ways that makes me ridiculously me. In other ways, it's this fanatical growth mindset that makes me ridiculously me, that I'm learning from every person. I learned from you today. I learned from the book I just read before I got on this podcast. I learned from experiences. I learned from a TV show. I am just never ending learning. And then my coach told me years ago, you got to output that, Paul. So now it's this compulsion to spread that goodness to the world.
I love that. And I actually relate a lot to that. And I know, let's get rid of like the idea that you need to be well-rounded. You need to know everything. But like one of my oldest daughter, she's 30 and we work together a lot. She was my assistant for a really long time and she knows me really, really well. Anyway, she always says that, and this is like language, but she always says, I'm completely brilliant at something or a complete dumbass at it. Like I either know everything there is to know about it or absolutely nothing about it. That's kind of true because the things I'm passionate about, like I get in and I study and I know and I like get kind of a little OCD about it. Like I will dive into that thing. And then there's things that I'm just like, I have zero interest. I am not going to do that.
And that's okay.
And that is totally okay. I don't need to know things about sports. I don't sport. Okay, Paul, if you had one message to share with our audience today, what would the one message you have to share with them be?
Schedule a personal retreat for yourself. Go to the mountains, go to the beach, go somewhere where it's just you in solitude and wrestle to the ground. Why am I here? I know it's a very existential question, but why am I on the planet? Do some exercises to rediscover your ridiculous self, right? And then just say, what are the patterns in all these assessments? What are the patterns in my experiences? Where do I come alive? And start shaping that into a mission and vision statement that will guide your life to the best version of you.
I think that is such wise advice. Absolutely. Get out, connect. Like, and I think it needs to be by yourself too, because people are like, oh, well, I got away and I went on this retreat with all these other people. Cool. You had like their thoughts and their agenda.
Yeah.
And there's something about that solitude that I think is so necessary for like figuring you out, right?
Yeah.
You need to figure you out so you know how you want to experience the world, how you want to experience relationships, who you are in the space. Like such a beautiful question.
Who I am and who I'm becoming, right? I think breakthrough moments happen in solitude. So even if you're like a little like, oh, I'm an extrovert, I don't know if I could do that for hours. You can. You can do it. Just make sure you get some movement in your day. But you can do it because you're going to get a breakthrough in that silence.
Such wise advice. Okay, Paul, where can people find you? They want to learn more about leadership. They have speaking opportunities coming up. They need a little coaching. Where can people find you?
Website, growingforwardservices.net. And then Growing Forward Services on the socials, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn. I'm probably most on LinkedIn, Paul D. Casey. I'm not Paul Casey, the professional golfer. I'm just a hacker. So Paul D. Casey on LinkedIn.
Okay, cool. Thank you for sharing all of your beautiful energy and wisdom with us today. Paul is just so great at leadership and helping you grow forward, helping you find that kind of North Star energy for who you are. This has been Julie May and the Ridiculously You podcast. Thanks for joining us this time, and we'll see you later.
Share the spark, take it higher, hit subscribe, bring a friend, let the wildness never